Aita. My friend overheard her crush saying disgusting things about her and her biggest insecurities after I called him while she was in the room. Did I ruin 2 friendships? Should I tell him she heard everything? Hello, this is a temporary account to prevent the individuals involved in this situation from discovering this post, as I have not informed my friend, male, 21, that my other friend, female, 21, overheard the entire phone conversation between us in which he made some rather unpleasant remarks about her. To provide some background, my friend Luke, a pseudonym, and I have been close for nearly 4 years. We first met in our college dorm during our freshman year and shared the same social circle, which naturally led to our friendship. Truthfully, he is the only person from my first year that I consistently communicate with and spend time with. He has been an excellent friend to me and has provided substantial support over the years, so it is safe to say that he is among my closest friends. However, one aspect of Luke's behavior that raises concerns for me is his relationships and friendships with girls, which have always seemed somewhat questionable. He is quite attractive and enjoys spending time with girls due to the openness of their conversations, which can be more revealing than with guys, something I see as entirely valid and have personally benefited from. Nonetheless, he sometimes expresses feelings or gives attention to girls that could easily be interpreted as more than platonic. This has caused several of his female friends to confess their attraction and feelings for him. I have met some of these girls, and they frequently describe to me what he says. Honestly, it is all quite similar in every instance. Therefore, out of curiosity, I have asked him how he feels about these girls to gauge his thoughts on his friendships and his feelings. Every time I inquire about girls I know have a crush on him, he has consistently been very respectful, often saying things like, "I think she's a great friend, but I don't see her that way," among other responses. Recently, I have been spending time with another friend, female, 21, who is also friends with Luke, whom I will refer to as Jade, another pseudonym. She is a relatively new acquaintance, as I met her last semester while hanging out with Luke and our friend group. We connected quite well over shared interests and our mutual friendship with Luke. Honestly, during our first meeting, it felt as though she harbored romantic feelings for Luke, as she seemed to view me as her competitor whenever I mentioned spending time with him. Despite this, we managed to bond and have spent time together with Luke as a trio. She even helped me secure a job at the restaurant where she works. This semester, Jade, Luke, and I are all enrolled in a class together that meets twice a week, and we often hang out during and after class. I have grown close to Jade fairly quickly due to the amount of time we spend together. Eventually, while alone together, she confided in me about her feelings for Luke. However, for context, I learned that Jade has been in a relationship for the past 3.5 years, which surprised me at first, considering the impression I had of her feelings for Luke. She has since shared more about her boyfriend, revealing that he feels insecure regarding her friendship with Luke, which, to be honest, is understandable. Jade mentioned that she often lies to him or omits details about the time she spends with Luke. For instance, they will have lengthy nights together without her boyfriend being aware of it. She has also shared numerous negative aspects about her boyfriend, but that doesn't justify her actions of hiding her friendship with Luke, prompting me to suggest she break up with him, as it seemed like the most reasonable action to take. After this conversation, she disclosed certain comments Luke had made to her, as well as how close they have become, which led her to romanticize their connection. I do not blame her for feeling the way she does and interpreting his words that way, but as previously mentioned, I have spoken with other girls who are friends with Luke, and their accounts of his behavior are all quite similar. I shared this with her, explaining that this was not the first time he had made such remarks to other girls, and also mentioned that he had behaved similarly toward me in the past. I perceive his actions as part of his personality, and I have never interpreted them as romantic overtures. To me, he is simply an open, charismatic person who aims to make others feel good about themselves, which is what I seek in platonic friendships. However, I can understand how his behavior could be misinterpreted as romantic. Last night, following our class, Luke, Jade, and I went out for dinner. Right before our meal, Jade informed me of her intention to break up with her boyfriend. I felt pleased about this development, as I believed it was long overdue. She explained her reasons for wanting to wait, but during dinner, We collectively encouraged her to end the relationship that evening. It is worth noting that we began drinking alcohol during this discussion. Luke chose not to drink and had to leave early because of a test the following day. After he departed, Jade and I returned to my apartment and continued drinking. She actually stepped out for an hour to break up with her boyfriend, but returned directly after. She mentioned it wasn't a complete breakup and that they had decided to take a break for a while. However, now that this had transpired, she wished to express her feelings to Luke. We continued discussing Luke and what might happen if she told him about her feelings, considering that they might not be ready for a relationship, especially with her having just come out of one. This was when I made a choice I now regret. Slightly intoxicated, we started to plot how I could ask Luke if he had feelings for Jade over the phone, with her listening in since I had previously asked him questions like that, and he had always responded respectfully regarding other girls. Eventually, I managed to reach him and said, "Hey, Jade just left, and I have a hunch that she likes you. What do you think about that?" He replied that he spent a lot of time with Jade and that they were so close he had sometimes viewed her in a romantic light. However, comments from his friends about her appearance had put him off. They had made disparaging remarks about her hygiene, including comments about her teeth and hair, which she later revealed were her biggest insecurities. Additionally, he mentioned that he knew all along that she had feelings for him and that his friends had teased him about her crush. He noted that another female friend of ours had made comments about Jade looking unattractive and unclean. I must emphasize that Jade is beautiful, and I have often told her that her teeth and curly hair are part of what makes her unique. I am genuinely taken aback that our other friends would make such judgments about her. While it might be true that slightly crooked teeth and naturally frizzy hair do not conform to conventional beauty standards, those features do not make her unattractive in any way. In my opinion, she remains a conventionally attractive woman despite these characteristics. I find the attitudes of these individuals to be extremely shallow, and I have reevaluated my perception of Luke because of his willingness to associate with people who behave this way and his susceptibility to their judgments. I should not have permitted him to continue speaking so poorly about her, but Jade overheard everything, and Luke is unaware. I now feel a deep sense of guilt because I not only violated my friend's trust, but I also put Jade in a position where she heard hurtful comments made about her by our mutual friends, comments I wish she could unhear. I fear I made a significant mistake and that I must confess to Luke that Jade was listening during our call. I intend to apologize profusely, but I am incredibly anxious that this situation has irreparably damaged our relationships. On one hand, I feel remorse for violating Luke's trust and permitting him to express negative thoughts about Jade while she was eavesdropping. On the other hand, I feel disgusted by Luke's comments and wonder if it might be better for Jade to know how he and his friends truly view her. Am I the one at fault? Story 2. I was accused of being disruptive for tripping over my chair and using a trash can during class. Confused, I sought clarity but faced denial. I am a 28-year-old female and currently in my 3rd semester of college. I attend a local tribal college. Here are a few details about me that are relevant. I am autistic, have treated borderline personality disorder, and am physically challenged by 3 chronic illnesses and genetic disorders. Today, I received an unexpected email from a high-ranking individual at my college requesting a meeting. My immediate thought was, oh, okay, since they mentioned academic advising, and I had been wanting to consult my advisor, so I assumed that was the purpose of the meeting. Instead, I was abruptly informed that since October, some students and staff had complained about my disruptive behavior. I was taken aback because no one had ever mentioned any issues like that to me previously. A few weeks ago, I experienced an incident with a professor before class. When I attempted to show him a book related to our subject, he told me to stop asking questions and answering them, which was disheartening. I stood in line like everyone else, waiting for the prompt, "Does anyone have questions?" I also make an effort to avoid answering consecutively to give others a chance. I inquired if there was something else he wanted me to do or if there was a specific protocol, but he simply replied, "No." Feeling upset, I requested to be excused briefly to use my coping mechanisms as I had been taught. The next time I saw him, I said, "Hey, I really appreciate and admire you as a teacher, and I hope we can maintain a positive student-teacher relationship despite whatever issue this is. Can we discuss it later? His response was a curt, I don't want to talk to you. Nevertheless, I offered him traditional gifts one usually gives to an elder, which he rejected. I thought, okay, I'll just focus on my classwork and hopefully everything will work out. I assumed that was the end of it. I had not experienced anything else for nearly 3 weeks. Then today, I received that email. I spoke with the administrator to understand what I had done wrong, but he seemed unwilling to provide specifics. He repeatedly said that I knew what I did and told me to stop playing the victim, claiming that I was obviously seeking attention. Eventually, I did manage to get 2 specific reasons for the complaints. The 2 incidents were, 1. My foot inadvertently became trapped between the chair seat and backrest, causing me to fall backward and get my chair tangled up to my knee, which necessitated assistance due to my physical disability. 2. I became ill during class, and knowing I wouldn't make it halfway across campus to the restroom, I used a trash can rather than risk vomiting in the hallway or, worse, on the teacher's floor. To say I was confused would be an understatement. I tried to explain that I tripped, but this high-ranking staff member, who held a position related to academics, insisted, No, I think you wanted attention. He then questioned whether I respected my fellow students, my elders, and my instructors. Of course I do, I replied. Yes, I absolutely do. I am passionate about learning, value my teachers, and would never intend to disrespect anyone. It saddens me to think that I might have done so, as I genuinely care for this campus and community. He dismissed my comments again, and each time I requested a specific example of my behavior so I could understand what I needed to correct, I was once more labeled as seeking attention. I truly dislike being the center of attention. Given my multiple medical issues, most of the attention I receive comes from situations like fainting in public while people gather around me. It's quite embarrassing. So, hearing that accusation was surprising. In any case, he continued to dismiss everything I said, focusing on vague accusations of inappropriate behavior he refused to specify. Later, I decided to ask several of my classmates from last semester for their perspectives, and none could recall any instance of me being disruptive or attention-seeking. I want to emphasize that I genuinely sought to resolve the situation and made it clear, stating, I honestly don't know what I did, but I apologize if my behavior bothered anyone. Could you provide me with more details? His response was, No, you already know what you did. Thus, the meeting concluded without any resolution to what felt like a minor issue between me and the instructor, wherein I had become upset and applied the coping strategies outlined in my plan for students with disabilities. I am somewhat shocked because nearly everyone else I've encountered has appreciated my enthusiasm for learning and enjoyed teaching me. I can't help but wonder, if this has been an ongoing issue since October, why am I only hearing about it now, at the end of February? I remain thoroughly puzzled because aside from the 2 examples mentioned, I was never explicitly told what I did wrong. I worry that I come across as a problematic person, particularly since I have great respect for my instructors and fellow students. The idea that an issue persisted for 5 months without my knowledge is painful, since I certainly did not want to cause any distress. At the same time, I find myself thinking, why is this being brought up only now? I have never faced a problem that was formally addressed before. I remain uncertain about my actions, yet they seem to treat me like I'm feigning ignorance when I seek clarification on what I should change. And I truly believed this campus and community felt like family, and now I am frightened to return. I desperately want to know what was causing problems beyond tripping and becoming ill, as those were situations I could not control. I wish I had more details to provide for a clearer understanding, but this is genuinely all I know. I am open to acknowledging my imperfections, and perhaps there is more to this situation than I realize. Still, aside from being branded as disruptive and an attention seeker due to the 2 incidents mentioned, I was primarily labeled as an attention seeker without any concrete justification. I suspect that my disclosure of having borderline personality disorder, a condition that carries its own stigma, may be influencing their perception. This higher-up individual mentioned he studied psychology for 4 years, suggesting I didn't need to disclose anything about my diagnosis, but it's important to remember that in the time he attended college, misconceptions about BPD were prevalent. However, I do not want to make accusations without strong evidence, so I thought I would seek input. Am I in the wrong? Or could there be something I could improve upon? I possess minimal information, and it appeared that neither individual wanted to provide further details, only repeating phrases like, "You know what you did," and "you talking to me is attention-seeking," which is particularly strange since it was he who initiated the conversation. I am uncertain. I would appreciate hearing any opinions, ideas, or advice anyone might have. If the information I've provided is insufficient, I apologize. This is all I know. At this moment, I am seriously contemplating the possibility of withdrawing from college entirely because I am uncertain about the future. Will I be labeled as attention-seeking if I have a medical episode and pass out? I genuinely want to comprehend what I may have done to escalate this issue, or whether this is merely an unusual miscommunication from a teacher who does not seem to have had a favorable opinion of me. Alternatively, it could be another communication failure. I realize this is quite lengthy, and I apologize for the lack of conciseness. This is simply my style of communication, and I wanted to ensure I included all pertinent information. So, Aita users, I welcome your insights. Story 3. My 38F husband's 37M hot wife fantasy for me has ended in regret, shame, and worry that my marriage is in trouble. How do we start to navigate this? Summary. My husband's fantasies about me being a hot wife gradually became our reality. I started to have regrets and changed my mind about going along with it. I informed my husband that I no longer wished to participate, feeling guilty but not blaming him at all. Now, he accuses me of deceiving him for 2 years, saying he no longer knows who I am, and our sexual life feels doomed because of my desire to exit this arrangement. I feel lost, lonely, and as though my marriage is falling apart. A few years back, my husband expressed a desire to delve deeper into fantasies and role play in our intimate life. We have 2 young children and have been together since our college days, so while our relationship wasn't perfect, I was generally satisfied with our sex life. We enjoyed reigniting our sexual connection and felt we were rediscovering some of the excitement and passion that had diminished over time. This experience encouraged him to divulge specific fantasies, particularly the idea of sharing me, which began with him wanting to post alluring pictures of me on Reddit. I was hesitant, but agreed to indulge as long as everything remained anonymous and my face was not shown. He enjoyed this and seemed to delight in the comments from other men, which I suppose validated him as a fortunate partner. The positive feedback and compliments certainly provided me with a confidence boost. Eventually, he revealed that his fantasies had evolved into the idea of us opening our marriage in reality and my becoming a hot wife. I was completely unprepared and had no interest. I loved him and our marriage, and I never desired to be with another man. I was content with our relationship. He clarified that it wasn't about that. He merely wanted me to appreciate my own sexiness and to experience pleasure in every way possible. I thought he was out of his mind, but we continued to discuss it. We engaged in numerous conversations about what he found appealing in this fantasy and the potential consequences of pursuing it. It seemed like a disaster waiting to happen. Yet, I was willing to indulge in the fantasy of the hot wife concept through role play and toys. However, his desire to make this a reality intensified. I gradually, perhaps unconsciously, began convincing myself that I might come to enjoy this if it meant making him happy and enhancing our sex life. It felt like if I didn't at least explore this, I would be failing to satisfy the man I wanted to please. He increasingly posted on Reddit some instances I was aware of, others I wasn't, and chatted with various men. I began communicating with some of them to determine if it piqued my interest. Again, I enjoyed the attention and compliments, but more than that, I relished the arousal it incited in my husband. That was what propelled me forward, even when I felt uncomfortable about my actions. My husband had never been more attentive, affectionate, and attracted to me, and this was undeniably exciting. We started exploring websites and applications associated with this lifestyle. I always mentioned my preference for us to explore these avenues together. I had only been with a few men before meeting him, and I had no intention of beginning a phase of promiscuity after marriage and children. Still, I let myself be persuaded that this would be beneficial for both of us and would energize our marriage. Ultimately, I consented to explore this further. I had several encounters with different men. Thankfully, all the individuals were respectful, and I remained safe. However, each time I ended up in the bathroom in tears, overwhelmed with shame for what I had done. Moreover, my husband wanted me to document the experiences with photos and videos, and every single time, he critiqued my performance, saying I hadn't captured the right images or angles, among other criticisms. By the time I returned home and he had reviewed the pictures and videos, he usually changed his mind and rewarded me with affection and praise, leading to exciting, uninhibited sex. However, that artificial allure began to fade over time, and he would urge me to explore again. I resented that the pressure and responsibility rested solely on me. I had to initiate conversations with men, vet them, flirt, keep them engaged, and send seductive photos. While it was sometimes enjoyable, it became exhausting. I was attempting to please men who were inconsequential to me all, while managing my normal relationships and my marriage. At one point, I met a man who was involved in the lifestyle with his wife, and I was hopeful that perhaps my husband and I could explore this with another couple, or at least befriend a couple experienced in navigating this complex dynamic. We went on a double date with them, which was enjoyable and seemed to foster a connection, but my husband developed a superficial aversion to the wife. No worries, I would never force him into anything he was uncomfortable with. We visited a lifestyle club twice while on vacation, and that was the most he ever engaged. However, he wouldn't approach anyone or put himself out there. I was always the one initiating contact, which led to no meaningful connections. That was when I began to feel resentment, realizing that although this was his kink, I was the only one genuinely participating, and I was the one risking the consequences. I faced the possibility of meeting someone harmful or being put in a precarious situation where I had no control or ability to defend myself. Even though we practiced safety, I could contract a sexually transmitted disease. My husband could change his mind and resent me, while I would have no defense, since I would be the only one who had truly done anything wrong. Then, this past winter, right around the holidays, a significant conflict erupted within our extended family due to someone's infidelity. The way we, including myself, began to perceive this woman led me to reflect deeply on how I started viewing myself and the dread I felt at the thought of anyone discovering our actions. My husband reassured me that this situation was different because he was the one who desired the hot wife experience and that we were in this together. But it only deepened my feelings of regret. I felt like a bad person, consumed with shame for allowing things to go this far when ultimately, my life, marriage, family, and mental well-being mattered far more than a fantasy. I finally opened up completely to my husband about my changed feelings regarding our participation in this lifestyle. I expressed that my conscience had been heavily burdened. I clarified that I do not blame him or believe he coerced me into anything. However, I also lamented that I had attempted to persuade myself that I wanted to explore this because he persistently pushed the fantasy further. Now, he claims that I have been misleading him for the past 2 years and that he no longer knows who I am. His primary concern is whether our sex life will ever return to a fulfilling state, as he struggles to trust my genuine likes and desires. I have reassured him that I am open to exploring nearly anything with him, but I only wish to pursue this with him moving forward. Nonetheless, he insists that now we will have conventional sex and that he will never get what he seeks. I told him that this doesn't need to spell the end of our sexual life together, but if that is his mindset and expectation as we try to repair the situation, it will be challenging to progress. He responded by saying it was my responsibility to demonstrate that nothing had changed and that I did nothing wrong. I refused to act as if I did something wrong and to coddle him. He got us into this situation, and I don't know how to find a way out. He must resolve this himself. This is the current state of my marriage, and I feel utterly hopeless. Story 4. An open letter to God. I am seeking support, not suggestions. Please be kind. Dear God, I do not wish to harbor anger towards you. I do not want to lay blame on you. However, it is very difficult to believe that you love me at this moment. It is challenging to feel your care. In fact, I do not sense your presence at all. My mind questions what I did to provoke such anger from you. Why are you permitting so much suffering? I am striving to hold on to the belief that you are a benevolent God with a positive plan and that you are on my side, not against me. Yet, it seems there is no evidence of that in my life right now. In truth, some Christians might say I simply need to pray more. They might suggest I am not praying correctly or that I do not read your word enough. They might urge me to fast. The list continues. Everyone seems to know the correct response for others, but rarely for themselves. I am also attempting to comprehend that this may not relate to me at all. The answer might be a matter of timing, and I must learn to trust that. That can often be more challenging. There are no guarantees. I believe you are teaching me something through all of this, and perhaps it is immature of me to ask, but must I always be learning? Can I not enjoy life sometimes without the constant burden of trials and tribulations? I realize I spend much time in my head, a trauma response, I suppose. I exhaust myself contemplating possible outcomes to get ahead of them and spare myself surprise and pain. I understand this is futile. I wish I had someone in my life willing to reflect rather than just leaving. Is that too much to request? This feels excessively burdensome for one person to bear, but when I reach out, I receive generic reassurances like, "You are strong." Perhaps I am, but that does not mean I should have to endure this solitude. Maybe the strength I possess is a result of having to manage so much alone. Does that imply it is beneficial that I have not had anyone to rely on? I sense that others are weary of hearing about my ongoing struggles. I feel the same. If it were something I was causing myself, I could accept that. It is difficult to connect with individuals who cannot think critically and recognize that the pain inflicted is due to a person I permitted in my life over 2 decades ago. The contradiction currently is that others perceive me as never vulnerable. But when I have allowed myself to be, I am only reminded why I cannot be. People desire you to share your troubles, but have no idea how to respond when you do. I long for a partner with whom to share life's joys and challenges. However, that is not the reality of relationships today. Having a partner, as a woman, often translates to another child to care for. That seems to be the expectation. Society has accepted that men are inept except for working, while women are to work and handle all responsibilities with a smile. She's expected to support him and sacrifice herself. It is difficult for me to believe this is how you intended it to be. Yet that is the reality, one I could not support even if I tried. In moments when I am overwhelmed with worry, I chastise myself for not being more pleasant or finding a partner, not for my sake but for my children's. So they could have had a positive male role model. How strange is that? I have relinquished the idea of someone coming through for me, understanding the necessity for my beloved ones. The harsh reality is that not having one nearby has left us all very vulnerable. How are they to know what a healthy man is like if they have never encountered one? I have prayed for this for years, so when I assess the harm caused by not having one in our lives, it is difficult not to blame you. Why didn't we deserve that? I wholeheartedly believed you would come through for us, yet you never did, and now we are all at the mercy of an evil man. Why? I cannot help but feel I have been naive about some beliefs I held. Like the notion that if you are a good person and strive to do the right things, everything will just turn out well for you. When I hear my mother express naive sentiments, it angers me. It makes me feel like this is where I learned to be so gullible, and I cannot help but blame her to some extent. If only someone had taught me wisdom and discernment instead of emphasizing forgiveness, what could my life have been like? I grow weary of hearing so-called Christians urging me to pray for my challenges and quoting scripture when all I need is a comforting embrace. I cannot be the only person who feels this way. I have no doubt that they are misrepresenting you and missing the broader perspective. I do not claim to know everything about you. In fact, I sense you are quite distant, but there are a few things I am certain of. You would not have supported the church leaders who shamed me when I sought help. I understand I may appear fiery and possess a strong personality. That is because I have had to defend myself consistently. Since childhood, I will not apologize for that. It does not mean I cannot also be a victim of abuse. It is much simpler to blame me and label me as easy to manipulate. Perhaps I was. However, I know I did not endure this all alone. My family was left vulnerable when many capable individuals could have supported us. I did my utmost with what I had. I spent most of my children's childhood merely trying to survive. None of us experienced much enjoyment. It was just one unending need after another. I foolishly believed that obtaining my college degree would pave the way for a better life. It did not. The challenges kept arising. The people in our lives continued to create difficulties rather than provide support. I could not even share this with them, as none of them can distinguish between self-pity and genuine grief. I grieve the years that have been stolen from us. I worked so hard to provide my children with a good life. I made numerous mistakes along the way, but that has always been my priority. Then I could no longer sustain it because I was just trying to navigate the trauma. Everything crumbled when I was no longer able to uphold it all. And now we are still paying the price and still doing it all alone. These are the moments when you should be able to seek solace in your church, right? But I know better. I even fear to pray because it feels as if all my prayers are being obstructed. Regardless of whether anyone understands, every day that I am 6 feet above ground, I am proud of myself. I have 2 children who do not stand a chance against their monstrous father without me. I cannot promise them a better future after everything I have endured. I can only assure them that they will receive what remains of me.